Alisa, good morning. Alisa,
Good morning, ma'am.
good morning, sir.
How are
Good.
you?
I'm good, thank you. So yes, I'll just quickly go through the program with you. I'll be welcoming briefly, and I guess Vivek sir told me that Taj Hassan sir and Santosh sir would not be joining.
Yeah, actually, Taj sir is on leave. He is abroad right
Okay.
now, and Professor Santosh is also in another program in Lucknow, so
Okay.
they will not be able to join.
So what we would do, sir, I'll just give, I'll just welcome, and then I'll hand it over to you. And
Fine.
then maybe, once you give the brief of the program, our Vice Chancellor would give the special address. And, once you're done with your briefing, I'll request the Vice Chancellor.
Okay,
And then maybe we'll have the first speaker to start with the session.
fine.
That's fine, no, sir? So shall I allow all the other participants, sir?
Yeah, you can allow.
Okay, thank you.
மேல லாப்பா
A very good morning to one and all. This is Dr. Priya Rao, Dean External Relations from Avantika University, Ujjain. We would be starting with the session in another 5 minutes. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. This is Ali Haider from an IDM.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
So with the permission of Honorable Vice Chancellor, should we start the program, ma'am?
Yes, please, sir.
Please.
Thank you so much. So a very good morning to one and all, and we are extremely pleased to welcome you all for the 3 days online training program on community-based climate change adaptation, organized jointly by Avantika University Ujjain and National Institute of Disaster Management, Delhi, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I now request Ali sir to kindly take over, please.
Thank you, ma'am. So a very good morning to all the respected dignitaries, Honorable Vice Chancellor of Avantika University, and all the respected participants. And on behalf of the National Institute of Disaster Management and Avantika University, I welcome you all to this 3-day online training program on community-based climate change adaptation. I'll just give a brief and set the context of this training program, why we are conducting this, what are our objectives, which we will be aiming to achieve in these 3 days, which are starting from today. So the community-based adaptation draws on participatory approach and methods developed in both DRR, that is disaster risk reduction, and community development works. We are seeing and all the IPCC reports and the COP meetings, like we have just witnessed the COP27, they all are talking about the climate change. So it is a real phenomena, it is happening, and we all are being influenced or impacted by these, by the effects of climate change. The higher frequency of extreme weather events such as the drought and floods, as well as the unprecedented and unpredictability in the variation of the seasonal rainfalls. These are the major and we can say the visible impacts and effects of climate change on our nature. And because of the changing climate change, the vulnerability of the people is also increasing. We can say that the vulnerability to climate change is not just a function of the geographical area where you are living or dependence on natural resources only. It also has social, economic, and political dimensions, which influence how climate change affects different groups of society, means our community, the people who are living in, the poor communities who are already struggling with the to cope with the existing poverty, the challenges associated with the poverty, and the climate shocks which they are experiencing for so long. But this climate change could also push many beyond their ability to cope or even to survive. So it is vital that these communities are helped to adapt these changes. And the community-based adaptation is a process which lead the community, which empower them, and which put them in the center to cope with this, to adapt to, and to fight with this changing climate. They can survive and they can utilize the resources they have effectively. Community-based adaptation may start by identifying the communities who are vulnerable, vulnerabilities of these communities, how at what extent they are vulnerable, their risk profile, at what risk they are living. So these are the things which we can identify to make them adapt the changing climate. So these are the challenges which we will be highlighting and we will be talking about in these three days. So this 3-day training program is being organized with the objectives to create an awareness about the changing climate and its social impacts on the community, and to learn how disaster management or DRR, disaster risk reduction, can be integrated with the climate change, and why it is important to integrate both these phenomena. And to create the also to create the awareness regarding various methods of community-based climate change adaptation, how this process works, who are the main stakeholders in this process, what are the responsibilities of all the people in the community and who are supporting the community. So with this, I also thank the chairpersons of this program, Shri Taj Hassan sir, the senior IPS officer and the executive director of National Institute of Disaster Management, and the Honorable Vice Chancellor of Avantika University, Dr. Nitin Rane sir, for allowing us to collaborate for this training program and to make it happen at such an important time, and the time could not be more important than this, because we will be experiencing the extreme heat or extreme cold waves in coming days. And I also thank the directors of this program, Professor Santosh Kumar sir, who is the head of governance and inclusive disaster risk reduction and disaster response and recovery divisions at the National Institute of Disaster Management, and also to the Dean External Relations of Avantika University, Dr. Priya Rao ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, and also to my colleague, Mr. Vivek, for coordinating for this program. So over to you, ma'am, and thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And dear friends, it gives me immense pleasure to introduce our Honorable Vice Chancellor, eminent educationist, Dr. Nitin Rane. And thank you so much for joining the session, sir. And we would be happy if you could kindly address the audience with the special address. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Priyama. Thank you. Good morning, one and all. Let me thanks to Ali Haidarji for briefing about the session. I'm extremely happy to welcome you for the 3 days online training program on community-based climate change adaptation, organized by NIDM and Avantika University. It's a jointly organized program. All of you are aware, like, climate change is a serious matter of concern across the globe, leading to loss of life and livelihoods. As a responsible citizen, it is our prime duty to sensitize and support the community towards the climate change adaptation. We are happy that the government has been taking right steps in this regard, and with the institution such as National Institute of Disaster Management imparting quality training in areas pertaining to disaster management. We hope and like more institutions like NIDM will be joined in their noble venture. And we truly applaud the efforts taken by NIDM Executive Director Sri Taj Hassan ji and Dr. Santosh Kumar ji, Head GIDRD Division NIDM, and entire team of National Institute of Disaster Management. I am really thankful to all the resource person for accepting our invitation and for sharing their valuable knowledge for upliftment of community. Once again, I give many thanks to all those who participated in this training program and give my good wishes for the success of the program. Thank you. Priya Madam, over to you.
Thank you, sir. So, dear friends, it gives me immense happiness to introduce our speaker for the first introductory session today, for the inaugural session. He is Colonel Sanjay Srivastava. He is the chairman of Climate Resilient Observing System Promotion Council. He is an illustrious disaster management practitioner, learner, and researcher with 36 years of professional experience. His current area of engagement is in the field of lighting resilience, SDGs, carbon neutral goals, climate change action, early warning, earthquake early warning and response, and leverage of technology in disaster and development. Dear friends, he hails from Air Defense, a highly technical combat branch of Indian Army. His area of expertise is in radars, satellites, remote sensing, communication, modeling, AI, data analytics, and modern technology-based solutions. He is a techno-managerial skill dynamic professional. He is a researcher and holds 6 masters, 2 masters each in technology and management, mass communication, and defense management. He has worked in India in national and state government levels, as well as abroad in USA, Europe, South Korea, Singapore, etc. He is abreast with the dynamisms of risk and advocates a futuristic and deterministic approach with technology-driven proactive management of disasters. Salient contributions done by Sir are 112 single emergency number or ERSS in India, National Lightning Risk Mitigation Program, multi-hazard early warning and technological solutions to disaster management, technology-based contribution to climate smart agriculture, contribution to sustainable energy engineering, crowd management technology, implemented many high mass events like Baba Dham, Devgar, Ganga Sagar, Tirupati, Cricket Stadium, etc. Coal mining monitoring systems. For his outstanding work in the field of lightning, he was given center stage to present his work to Word by UNDRR during the Global Platform 2019 at Geneva. He has received many awards, notably the Nelson Mandela Peace Academy Award, Global Leadership Award, and other national and state level felicitations. He is known as technology and innovation solution provider and specializes in early warning design engineering, dissemination, communication technology, prevention, mitigation, and response. Dear friends, at present, he is the chairman of the Climate Resilient Observing Systems Promotion Council, and he is a prolific writer and has many publications and research papers to his credit. Sanjay sir, it is truly an honor to have you for our inaugural address, and thank you so much for accepting our invite and joining this session. Over to you, sir. Thank you.
So you are on mute.
Yeah. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah. At the very outset, let me thank National Institute of Disaster Management and Avantika University for giving me this opportunity to speak to the August gathering here. I am in particular thankful to Dr. Priya Rao, who contacted me and pursued me to deliver the lecture. This is a 3-day online training program on community-based climate change adaptation. Today, this is the most talked and this is the most vibrant topic in the world. If you see the World Economic Forum report, they have identified the most severe risk on a global scale over the next 10 years. And the topmost, the first climate action failure is the severe risk which humankind is facing. And hence the climate action. If you see the dignitaries in the world, from the United Nations to Western world, to the developing world, to the poor countries, and to the community. Today, the climate change is not a theory, it's happening, and it's happening everywhere. We are facing its brunt. If you see the losses due to climate hazards, the WMO, World Meteorological Organization, report on the status of climate in Asia, it reports that $7.6 billion was lost in India due to the climate change-driven disasters. And if you see the sector-wise, the drought, the extreme temperature, flood, glacial. And to the surprise, the thunderstorm and lightning has caused its 48% hazards to the 48% losses in the country. And same report, if you compare the World Meteorological Organization and UNISCAP, India lost $87 billion in 2021. And that demands a climate action. If you see the trend of losses in Asia, it is not only India, but this region being in tropical region, this region with good coastal features are facing more brunt than any other region. If you go on the World Risk Index report, India stands at number 2 position after Philippines. Our World Risk Index is 42.31 and our exposure is 36% almost. And with the vast population what we have, our vulnerability goes to almost 50%, and so is the susceptibility. Due to the various factors, the coping capacity of our country is less than 55%. So it is time now that we enhance the outreach of our climate action program. I'm just giving you an example of recent few incidents which happened. We had Bangalore rains in September 2022. The loss was 9,000 crore plus in a city like Bangalore. We had Mumbai rains 14 to 19 September. The loss was 2,200 crore. This was mainly in the power failure sector. The drought, which was there in 2022, we have lost more than of 1,56,000 crore plus. The Gurugram incident of thunderstorm and lightning, just one day on 30th May 22, we had 800 crore plus economy loss. Heat wave 22, Kharif production was less than 20% in the country. And if you monetize it, it was 67,000 crore plus. So the time has come that we go for a proper action towards all this. We identify the factors and we go for a climate action program. And any program which we go for has to be community driven. I have shown the United Science Framework, which has identified various areas where we have suffered. 2015 to 21 were the 7 warmest years on record. The atmospheric greenhouse gas concentrations continue to increase, and most of them come from the agriculture. Climate change made extreme heat and floods worse in 2022. But yes, the early warning systems, which was there, it reduced the vulnerability and the losses. Cities are major contributors to global emissions. We are watching all the metro cities in India, especially which are landlocked, like Delhi, Nagpur. These are the cities which are suffering. We see global warming is increasing. Tipping points in the climate system cannot be ruled out. We are seeing the extreme rains. We are seeing the melting of the glaciers. We are seeing the increase in the water volume. The evaporation is increasing. If you analyze, as per the global study report of University of California, with 1 degree rise in temperature, there is 12% rise in the moisture. That brings the more rain. So more heat brings in more rain. There is a 93% chance that at least 1 year between 2022 and 26 will be hottest on record. So next 4 years are going to be very dangerous because our climate action programs have not been delivered. Ambition of new emission reduction pledges needs to be 7 times higher to meet the 1.5 degree goal. We are seeing the IPCC report, and the IPCC report has clearly said that by 2030, our emission needs to be reduced by 45% to achieve this 1.5 degree centigrade temperature goal. The CO2 emissions in early 2022 were higher than pre-pandemic levels early in 2019. So these are the few backdrops which I wanted to tell you. But grass is green on this side also. The COP27 has reached a breakthrough agreement on new loss and damage fund on vulnerable countries. This is one of the biggest achievements of the climate of parties agreements, which goes on every year since 2015. It has gained momentum, and the breakthrough of loss and damage fund has been a big breakthrough because this is going to give the much needed climate finance. If you see the COP27 declaration, I wanted to highlight here, countries have launched a package of 25 new collaborative actions in 5 key areas: power, road transport, steel, hydrogen, and agriculture. Why these 5 areas? Because these are the areas where we as an institution, whether it is government, university, or corporate, we need to identify power, road, transport, steel, and hydrogen, where collaborative actions packages are available and the funding is available. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres has announced a 3.1 billion plan. And if you see the India's projection, India has projected that if India wants to be carbon net zero by 2070, we need $3 trillion. And subsequently, I'll be showing you that India has already formed a fund for climate action, which are available, which can be leveraged. UN Secretary General has published a report at COP27 serving as how-to guide to ensure credible, accountable net zero pledges by industry, financial institutions, cities, and region. The G7 and the V20, that is the Vulnerable 20, has launched Global Shield against climate risks, announcing a total of 105.6 billion in the new funding. Denmark, Finland, these countries are assisting the low-lying and low-income states. This is basically to the states which are likely to be submerged due to the rising sea levels. I'll come on the ESG and the SDGs. We know that our sustainable goal targets up to 2000 have to be met. And for this, the environmental, social, ESG has to be complied. So in this environmental part, the climate change, natural capital, pollution and waste, and environmental opportunities, they matter a lot. And we have to drive it through the community. The social, the human capital, which our community has, that has to be leveraged. The product liability, stakeholder opposition, and social opportunities have to be exploited. In fact, this has become mandatory. And as you know, our cabinet has approved the National Deterministic Contribution, NDCs, towards the climate action. And every individual, organization, institution, bank, academia has to work on the ESG, and carbon footprint has to reduce. I'll give you a simple example. We take A4 size paper as a simple paper. This A4 size paper, it costs you 11 liters of water. So we have to justify our usage of water, usage of resources, and reduce our carbon footprint. The usage of energy, now people are on the energy reliant, energy resilient, energy self-reliant systems. So we have to come on those actions. As far as the community-based climate change adaptation is concerned, Dr. Priya, is my voice visible? Is my voice audible?
Yes, sir.
Is my slide visible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, in case of any problem, you can just, message me or intervene.
Yes. Thank you.
As far as the climate change adaptation is concerned, what is climate change adaptation? Adaptation is basically a process of adjusting to current or expected effects of climate change. We all know that heat is there, so how to reduce the heat? We know planting of trees, increasing of the water cover, less emission. These are the practices which we should adjust to. Effects of climate change impact. What are the effects? There are physical environmental effect. There is an effect on the ecosystem, and there's effect on human societies. And I would like to define here the community-based adaptation. It means building the ability of individuals and community to better withstand the impact of climate emergency. This is very important. Building the ability of individuals and communities to better withstand the impact of climate emergency. Today, we all know our ancient Indian mythology or the Vedic science has been a nature-friendly science. But I find a big change in the modern generation's lifestyle. In olden times, people used to live with nature, get up early in the morning as the sun rises, do their livelihood activities during the sunlight hours, and relax in the night. But now we are not. We are seeing the weather extremities. We are seeing the weather changes, but we are still on traditional agriculture practices. Everybody goes for sowing of the paddy. Paddy is a high water consuming crop. We need to identify the areas, the rain pattern, and adopt a pattern of agriculture which is more fruitful. There are less water needed, less smaller life cycle crops which need to be practiced. So there are many examples where you have to identify the impact of climate emergency. If less water is there, you should go for the less water-based cropping pattern. If you have good sunlight available, go for solar energy system. So this is done by support to communities to anticipate the adverse climate. Here the role of academia is very important. Academia is the center of knowledge, and the complete data of rain, heat, climate change is available on the India Meteorological Department website for the last 100 years. So the local areas analysis should be done by the academia. They should connect it to the society, especially the sectors like farmers, tourism, industries, and help them to take appropriate action to prevent or minimize damage caused. I'm happy to see that we have a city like Indore in India. I have been personally involved with Indore in making the city transition from traditional source of energy, that is the thermal and hydro, to the modern source of energy, that is the PNG, CNG, and the solar energy. So a city like Indore has accumulated huge carbon credit and which has billions of dollars of value, and that money can be utilized for development. So organizations like our organization, Climate Resilient Observing System Promotion Council, or academia, we associate with academia, we can give you the solution that what is the current pattern of usage of energy or the livelihood pattern, agriculture pattern, and we can suggest you solutions. And the local academia can do further micro level study on that and can leverage the community-based climate change adaptation. We have to see that which practice gives you the best possible dividend, which is environment friendly, which is local community friendly. That we have to see. In the picture, I am showing you these 4 practices which are there. If you see clockwise from top left, reforestation and habitat conservation. You see the sea walls to protect against storm surge worsened by sea level rise. The green roofs, which are here in the building to reduce the heat from in the urban heat islands. The selective breeding and drought-resistant crop, you can see this picture. So there are multiple options which are available for community-based climate change adaptation. These topics, why I have highlighted, this is reforestation, especially in areas like in Madhya Pradesh, you will see large-scale deforestation where you can undertake these missions during the rainy season, which is going to pay its yield during the summer season. And subsequently, if you conserve it for a few years, it's going to change the local climate environment. Similarly, the selective breeding and drought-resistant crop, it's very, very important. We need to sensitize farmers. You see, in 2022, the whole climate pattern has shifted by a year. The monsoon was supposed to come in June, it came in July. But the farmers went for sowing in June only, and they lost out on the money. This knowledge, though government does the job, it is a collective effort where academia also has to play a big role. And academia, if it connects with the society, to the farmers, to the local communities, such information can be shared. So knowledge with application to the local surroundings, that matters a lot. This green, roof topping, this is very important, especially in the urban island. And so these walls in not only sea area, but also in the high erosion area where rivers are in high slopes, where the speed of water is lot and the erosion due to the high speed of the water is order of the day. So there are various means of community-based change adaptation which can be undertaken. And mind it, India has a large number of best practices which are available in not only Madhya Pradesh, but all over the countries. Our Indian complete science is based on the climate change adaptation. We need to identify the strength in our system. We need to see what best practices are there in the world in other parts, and then we have to undertake this. So, as I told you, it's process of adjusting to current or the effects of climate change. One of the important points when you take a practice is important to see the adaptability, that is the capacity of the community to adapt to the initiative what you are going to undertake. And vulnerability is most important aspect, because you should not create more risk for the society. And you come out with an initiative which builds the resilience. By resilience, I mean that bounce back to normalcy situation. Say a particular area, even if it gets drought, it should be so smart that they should change their livelihood pattern and retain their normalcy in life. We all suffered due to COVID, but after 2 years, that is 2019, 22, 22 now, we seem to have forgotten. Why? Because of the various programs, various advocacies, and our self-determination, we have bounced back to normalcy. So that is called resilience. In resilience, the important points which I have highlighted here is the response capacity, adaptive capacity, reorganize. I must tell you the adaptive capacity, as far as we Indians are concerned, we are a very, very tolerant community, and our adaptive capacity is great. We are leadership driven, we are the solution driven society. And anything which you undertake in society, that is taken very positively. Adaptation by human, ecological, and local to global scales. You see the cropping pattern which has evolved in Madhya Pradesh. One of the example is the soya bean. It has become the hub of the soya bean market in the world. Similarly, there are many practices in other parts of the country. We have natural resources, like you see our mineral resources which are there. Climate change, third part, it is cause of most of the natural disasters. In fact, I would like to reiterate the word of the UN Secretary General. There is no disaster which is natural now. Every disaster is man-made. Why man-made? Because we know the technology, we know the period, we know the intensity of hazard. We need to sensitize people how to prevent it. And if we are failing in sensitizing people and taking the solutions up to the community, then that is a disaster. So every disaster is a man-made disaster. Impacts on ecosystem services. We must analyze the impact on eco-services system. The type of infrastructural development which is taking place. We are into rampant recapturing the water bodies. We are into the cutting of trees. These impacts need to be understood. So it is very important that we should know the impact on ecosystem. Vulnerability. Vulnerability is economic, geographic, equity issues. So it is very important that vulnerability needs to be identified when we are going for the community-based climate change adaptation. As far as the sectors which COP27 has identified, why I am confining to these sectors is agriculture, water resources, energy, infrastructure, health, coastal zone, forest and natural ecosystem, because funds are available in these. Ample funds are available, and not only Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, but almost every ministry has got fund for the climate change, and corporate bodies are giving huge funding for this. So my advocacy is this, that these are the sectors where we should focus on the community-based climate change adaptation. As a type of options which are available which are recommended for community-based climate change adaptation, basically infrastructural and technological options, built environment and technological options. In fact, NIDM has published a book on this, Built Environment and Technological Options, that should be referred to. And that is a huge contribution, especially the infrastructure for our living, what we are making. The local material should be used. The way we are going on the concretization, that is adding quite a lot damage to our climate change adaptation program. So we must have a environment-friendly built environment and the technology options which are available. The early warning system technologies. India provides one of the best early warning systems towards climate in the world. And the type of our satellite, radar, and automatic weather station networks are there. India Meteorological Department is giving you up to block level early warning. Our Krishi Vigyan Kendras and Damus are doing wonderful services. We need to connect these. The farmers, the academia, the scientific organization and governance need to be on one platform for better utilization of early warning technologies. And today with the available technology, it is very easy to set up an early warning system in any department, home, or in community zone. We need to monitor the weather. We need to use the early warning system and sensitize people. I gave you example of shifting of weather pattern in India in 2022 by a month. But how many of us have utilized this early warning for the community? The climate services. Climate services are coming from the government, from the Indian Council of Agriculture Research, IMD, and many government and private organizations. This has to be leveraged. This is one gray area. This is the biggest gray area of climate services rendering to the community. This I will recommend. I am ready to extend my support to Avantika University. You can create a climate services and early warning system technologies wing in your university, and you can mobilize students to the community. So that is going to give you a lot of inroads, not only in academic interest, in research, but also it can be monetized. It has a revenue part also. So that matters a lot. Today, automatic weather stations, the sensors of Ministry of Earth Science or Department of Space, they can be placed at your university. You can maintain the sensors, you can get the funding for it, and at the same time, you can become a knowledge center for surroundings to share the complete early warning and climate services. Institutional options, zoning regulations and building codes exist at national level to local level. This must be complied. Our people in the villages, in the cities need to be sensitized about the zoning regulation, building codes, because it is your lifetime money which you invest in making your house, and you suffer because of lack of knowledge or lack of compliance. Insurance and risk transfer mechanism. In fact, in India, the disaster management is confined to only 4 aspects: the prevention, mitigation, response, rehabilitation, and reconstruction. The most important part, the risk transfer mechanism, has been missing from the continuum of disaster management. If you go to the Western world, there is ownership to your risk. The child in US first learns 911. If I ask people in this August gathering, how many of you have 112 downloaded on your mobile app? You have all sorts of gaming app, but your self-security app, self-safety app, that is 112, is not there. So it is important that you own your risk, you identify your risk, and then only you will be able to overcome. Insurance is a big service, and it gives you big support in case of hazards. Say government maximum compensation which comes in case of death is 4 lakh. And in the modern environment, 4 lakh is no money. If your house is gone, you get 1,10,000 rupees. Can you reconstruct your house in 1,10,000? Never. So it's time you ensure your life, you ensure your house, you ensure your livelihood, through the risk transfer mechanism, that is insurance. Behavioral and cultural options, change in diet and food waste. I am not against McDonald's, KFC, but I favor that you should also go for the local foods. So that's one of the important area where I feel climate change adaptation is required. I Please have your pizzas, please have your Dominoes, but please also eat green vegetables which your moms every day give you and you fight back. No, I won't eat. Change in livelihood strategies and their diversification. It's important that we identify which livelihood is suitable to the local environment. In a very heated environment, you cannot go out and work in and do labor. So you need to identify your weather-based livelihood strategies and their diversifications. Nature-based solutions, I tell you, we have huge legacy. We are blessed to have great natural resources, our herbs, our medical treatment patterns, they are gaining importance in the world. I appeal to the modern generation to follow this. We have policy, national policy on climate change adaptation. We have tools, we have fundings through Ministry of Environment, other ministries like Energy, International Agency, NABARD, local banks. We have well-defined frameworks exist within the government, institutions and corporates. We have community demanded, community funded number of examples. We have Jal Purush, Rajendra Singh ji. We have so many people who have showcased the championship on community-based climate change adaptation. Implementation, we have regulatory norms which need to be followed. These are the few booklets which are available, which I will refer that you should go for it. I have given the source from where you can download. This is the UNDP's compilation on climate change, community-based adaptation to climate change in India. This is a book by International Institute of Environment and Development, 60 participatory learning and action, community-based adaptation to climate change. You can go through that. We have the GIZ, adaptation to climate change, with a focus on climate change in rural areas. This is a very, very good book, and you can download this. This can be useful. We have an international network, We Adapt, network for community-based adaptation to climate change. You can go on this website, register yourself. This is a network, and you can see in the picture, there are varieties of adaptation practices which are highlighted. This 30 minutes are too short a period to give you a comprehensive detail, but anybody interested in any particular sector are welcome to contact me directly onto it. As far as the action plan which is concerned, the Government of India has come out with a live concept, and Honorable Prime Minister has released this. And any best practice, if you have, you are requested to also convey to Niti Aayog on this. You should make an action plan. Any training program should not be only just training and forgotten. So you must identify sector, identify one sector. Identify in your house, I will have a solar, power, or you will identify one community. In a village, you identify a few farmers where you will drive with the knowledge. Relate it to routine business and develop action plan. Measure and scale it with quantified roadmap. Today, your power consumption, what is power consumption? What is the mobility pattern? Similarly, for farmers, what is their income? With your intervention, how much it increases? So it is important you do that. It's a long topic. There are various sectors which I have already given. If you take example, these are the points which you should follow. If you go on agriculture sector, it should be environmental friendly practices. There's a national smart agriculture mission by Ministry of Agriculture, and NABARD is funding, local banks are funding. You should go for that. There are local resources based practices. We have our Patta Ka Adhikar, where the local community gets their first right over the natural resources in all the tribal areas and the protected areas of the country. We have weather-based agriculture practices which are being practiced. This should be leveraged. We have community demand, community funded many projects which are being run by our cooperatives. Amul, the oilseed movement in Bhavnagar, Gujarat, the fishing cooperatives in Andhra Pradesh, Gujarat, in Odisha, in Bengal, they are the practices of community-based climate change adaptation. Similarly, water sector. The water conservation is one of the most important things which we are losing. And I must tell you, the water is the biggest heat sink and the carbon sink. It absorbs as much as 55 to 60% of the carbon and the heat. So it is most important that we conserve water bodies. Again, on water, water is of three types. One is the surface water, underground water table, and the rainwater. We must do a comprehensive analysis of all the three waters in 12-month cycle and how you are going to conserve it. Optimum use of water, water justice, rainwater harvesting, water management. There are various topics in itself, and I'm ready to contribute individually on this. Similarly, energy and industries. I gave you example of Indore. Gurugram is also in the process, and all the 100 smart cities in the countries have undertaken this. But it's going to take time. By 2050, our 100 smart cities are going to be carbon net zero. Transition to renewable energy. We have a renewable energy ministry and which has many schemes. Please visit their websites and adopt schemes. Smart cities mission have again climate change adaptation measures. Solid waste management in India is there in now every city. We have now more than 900 cities and the urban local bodies where solid waste management is undertaken. And that is why you will see that India in the climate action part is among top 6 countries in the world by our actions. So we all give our kachra from home to an organized person and it is being regulated in a nice manner. Similarly, our solar mission, our wind energy mission, electric vehicle, hydrogen and ethanol and other fuels are a major example of good practices which are undertaken. So it's an endless thing which is gone. You have to identify as per your local environment, what is the community, what are the natural resources, how is the climate, and based on this, you have to identify the sector where you want to leverage it. With this, I come to the end of my deliberation. Any question, I would love to take it.
Thank you for the wonderful session, Sanjay sir. And dear friends, we have two takeaways, important takeaways from sir's session. Since majority of us are academicians, it is our appeal, as sir rightly said, that all of us should be aware of 112 emergency contact number. And thank you so much, sir. That was truly eye-opener for all of us. So our own safety should be primary in our life. Second takeaway is, as sir has rightly again said, that academia should join hands with the government. Our government is already doing a lot of good work in the area of disaster risk reduction. And dear friends, please, I appeal to all of you to kindly join the India Universities and Institutions Network for Disaster Risk Reduction under the National Institute of Disaster Management. I'll be sharing the link in the chat box. So those of you academicians and institutions who have not joined this, it is an appeal to join the same. Thank you so much. And sir, it was truly a wonderful session and we look forward to having such sessions from you in future as well. Any questions, please? Anyone, any questions, please?
Good afternoon, sir. I have a question. Sir, my question is, what are some quick and some very regular activities that a general person can do to beat the climate change? A very basic one.
A very good question. In fact, we always talk about big things, the very basic things, what we as a human being can do. The very first thing I say is the usage of, your lifestyle pattern. First, your lifestyle pattern should be as per the nature and the cycle of the nature. So whether it is day and night, whether it is your sleep cycle, work cycle, or your weather cycle. So you should adjust yourself to the natural cycle of the day, night, and the weather cycle. Second is our consumption pattern, our consumption of resources, whether it is energy, food, or our activities. So try and use the local resources, try and conserve water. We are too much, driven by our comfort zone. Say there is a slight rise in the temperature, we switch on the AC. There's slight rise in the down in the temperature, we switch on the heaters. We should try and adjust. We see the animal birds outside, they live happily and chirp better than us in any weather situation. So we need to be slightly tolerant and get out, move. We should get out of inertia. The moment you get out in sun, you get vitamin D. I see a number of people now taking, they are so work savvy, they have started taking vitamin D capsule. It is such a simple thing. Get out to sun and use it. Similarly, the food part, the green vegetables and the local resources which are available, that gives you such a healthy environment and your own personal fitness and body. At times people criticize we armed forces people that we get up early, we go out for jog, walk, morning, evening. They say, what is this? But that's the way of life. If you move your body, if you exert yourself, you're happy, you're healthy, and that gives you a lot of confidence. And then again, your work hour, your environment, and life balance. These are few basic things which I feel you should do.
Thank you so much, sir. And another question to you, sir. So can you share some of the examples and the references of local communities who actually they came together and they have taken certain steps to adapt the climate change?
See, one of the example of Jalpurush Rajendra ji, which I gave you. So where if there in Rajasthan, there was area where there was water was far away. So it was a community which, united together. They brought the water from far away sources to the community. And the same has been replicated not only in Rajasthan, but in many places in Jharkhand, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, where he has led the community to create water sources next to their agriculture fields. So that has given not only drinking water, but a livelihood and rise in the cropping pattern, utilization of land that has added a great value to the community. So there are many such examples.
And so one last question, since I am into academics from last 15, 20 years, a very small thing I have noticed, like whenever students get out of the class, they never switched off the lights and the fan. So then I always go and then switch off all the things. So how to sensitize this this generation? Like if we'll include it into the curriculum, into the academia, the sensitization, the behavioral change is also required. So what do you think? What is the appropriate way to do that?
You see, I'm reminded of a recent one of the episode of Kaun Banega Karodpati, where one of the child, Manya Chamolia, she complained to Amitabh Bachchan that my mother always scolds me. And she said, if I am given more money, I'll buy a house and have 3 dogs. And one dog for me, that will be Beagle. Second dog for father. Father is simple, so he will get a Labrador. And for mother, I will not tell. So Amitabh Bachchan ji pressed her that you please tell the name. So she said Rottweiler. Rottweiler is a ferocious dog, keeps barking. So she said, my mother is always scolding me. So mother was also there. Amitabh Bachchan ji asked, why do you scold her so much? So she said, बचपन में अगर नहीं सिखाऊंगी तो आदतें कब होंगी? The problem lies within us, When we groom our children, we put them too much into comfort zone. And the moment they demand, we start giving them. So we have to identify grooming of the children at the right age. Once he is used to the, Western food, we find it very easy, that's it is pre-cooked, just ready to
Instant.
serve, give it.
Instant.
If we have developed the habit, and after developing the habit, changing the habit becomes very difficult. So the behavioral part has to be firstly self-complied. Your children are your application. You have to adapt to that life and then inculcate the same among children. I hope I
Yes.
have answered you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you
That
so
is
much.
a wonderful message to all parents as well. So yes, Richa ma'am, please go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for such a nice presentation. It's very insightful. Sir, I'm a urban planner. I'm a geographer and an urban planner, independent consultant. And we are all trying to pay attention to climate change, especially when we are planning small size towns or cities which are yet to grow. So my question is little relevant to technology. In the remote sense, in the presentation, we have also talked about zoning regulation and construction material that could be addressed, by using vernacular material, construction material and other things. However, this needs to be drawn from some kind of research, which can be heat island analysis of towns, basically, through remote sensing or something like that. Can you share some open source softwares or researches where, it will help us as planners to analyze which areas of the city are actually creating heat? Therefore, we can conclude and tell the ULBs that, see, you are using a lot of construction material of particular kind and not giving open spaces at all for heat to be absorbed. So can you suggest some softwares in remote sensing where we can do quick studies of heat island specific?
You see, this is one of the most concerned area where we find the type of construction material which are being used. And as far as the BMTPC standards which are also there, the way they were made, these sort of practices probably have not been kept in mind, So as far as the software part is concerned, there are piecemeal softwares available and they're not a integrated software, but yes, it is a topic of research which is being done by, a number of technical institutions. As of now, I cannot give you one solution software on this, and you can get in touch about your particular urban local body or area which are there, and there I'll be able to assist you, give some help,
Thank you, sir. So my daughter presents about ocean cleanup and a lot of efforts in environment. She is 7 years old and she surprises me also. So just because we were on the
Yes.
topic, that's a thought I should mention.
That is how you motivate your child, and if they do something that helps, you should encourage her. You must have heard India is also going a Sagar, clean mission. 75 coastal areas have been undertaken and they are being cleaned. And children in school or colleges should be given such projects, in their areas of work. Like in our childhood, we used to have a lot of conservation or handicrafts and these sort of projects. But nowadays, I am seeing most of the shop-driven project works. So environment or climate change-driven project works will give a better solution. Like you plant a tree and nurture the tree. Like so, there are many areas where you can. There are simple things, but we have probably forgotten simple things and got into the complexity of computer science and other things. They are also important, but at the same time, your basic foundation should be on a strong platform. Which city you are based, Ms. Richa Sethi?
Sir, I'm currently living in Ahmedabad, but I'm making master plans for 10 towns in UP. And we are trying to incorporate, especially as you mentioned, yes, waste collection we have addressed in all 10 towns. and slush treatment plants are also being handled very well in those. They're very small towns, about 5 lakh population only. So we will address all those through master plans, but for Heat Island particularly, I thought.
Energy transition, anything happening?
So they're not very open to waste to energy, but nothing much work done in that field particularly, especially not under master plans.
And there is another important part, since you have talked about UP, most of the towns have good ponds and the water bodies, and they are polluted. So there are natural ways of carbon sequestration, Ayurvedic way. If they are very cheap, and that gives a lot of carbon credit. And I will also request if you can motivate them to develop their own carbon credits, which can be monetized subsequently for a developmental process.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, Richa ma'am. So, dear friends, as sir has rightly said, it is time to sensitize the next generation. And sir, we are happy to say that at Avantika University, being an academic institution, we have taken this step in this regard. And our students, on the first day of their joining the university, on the orientation day itself, they are given a sapling and they are supposed to take care of that once they plant it throughout the journey of the university. So they themselves take the ownership for that. We are also into gifting seed balls to the guests who come to the university so that they can just throw it, on the way wherever there's less vegetation, so that we can promote afforestation. So thank you so much, Sanjay sir, once again for the wonderful session. And dear friends, I'm happy to introduce our next speaker for today. She is Miss Misha Tandon, consultant, urban, water and climate adaptation. She is a planner from the School of Planning and Architecture, Delhi, with the degree in water resource management from United Kingdom. She has over 18 years of work experience in urban development, climate change, WRM, sanitation, and on projects supported by international funding agencies, state and local governments. Her forte lies in intersectoral integration, and her extensive experience with BOP communities, urban local bodies, and international organizations provides her an understanding of local as well as global perspectives. Her expertise lies in policy planning, advocacy, capacity building, and working with vulnerable communities towards sustainable development. She has extensive experience in undertaking training and capacity building programs for government officials, vulnerable community, and the youth in general. She has also advocated urban development, water, and climate change related issues at several national and international platforms. She has been finalist UK Alumni Award Social Impact India 2018 and finalist for the World Water Challenge in 2018. She's currently working as an independent consultant and has her own NGO. So thank you so much, Misha ma'am, for joining us. And dear friends, Misha ma'am would be talking on learning from case examples of community-based adaptation. Over to you, Misha ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priya ma'am. It's a pleasure to be here. And before I start my presentation, I'll just like to add on to the last question that was asked on mapping of heat islands. So there's a paper that I had read from a US professor. What he did was that based on GIS, he divided the city into several grids. And then for each grid, he put a volunteer in that area to measure the temperature at various intervals, and then they mapped that over a week or so, and that way they got the heat island effect. So maybe we need not rely completely on technology. We can mix technology as well as the resources available to us. Thank you so much. And now I'll start sharing my screen. The topic I hope my screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am, it's visible.
Yeah. So the topic I'll be discussing today is learning from case examples. Learning from case examples of community-based adaptation. And thankfully, we are hearing so much about climate change here. So I hope this is in line with the topic. I represent my NGO here, which is Sustainability and Adaptation Planning Foundation. We work towards sensitization of students and youth on climate change activities. We do this through training programs, games, and activities with them. We also organize a lot of webinars. And what we also do is formulation of school climate action resilience plans, where students come together and develop a resilience plan for their own school. I have been introduced, so I'll skip this. We have also got some awards and recognitions, including from the UK Alumni Awards and from Action of India and IIT Kharagpur. So why do we need community-based adaptation in the first place? Because we've seen floods and droughts in Chennai and many other cities of India. So the same place which is facing droughts and 0 day, I hope all of you are aware of 0 day. 0 day means when the city supply runs out of water to supply to the city. We faced that situation in several cities in India during summers. Especially, we faced that in Chennai, where 0 day was achieved and the city did not have water left to supply to the citizens. We are facing more and more of cyclones like Fani, Vayu, Amphan. We are also seeing that in 30 years, large parts of our coastal cities like Mumbai would be under sea level. We have also seen the Chamoli floods of 2021, which devastated the entire Uttarakhand region and washed away one hydropower plant which was under construction. We have also seen temperatures above the normal in the Antarctica. So what we need to do is to align ourselves with the Sustainable Development Goals. And there is a 1.5-degree mark which has been set for retaining the temperature to 2100, but it is likely that in some, if we go on as usual, we might just reach that in the next 5 years. So you can understand the kind of situation we are in. We also see years where 2 degrees Celsius can be crossed by several places, including India. By 2025, 2060, we might be crossing the 2-degree warming level. This is the Global Climate Risk Index, wherein they have ranked the cities based on the kind of climate risks they have faced, and India ranks in the top 10 because of the kind of impacts we faced. India ranked 5th, earlier it was 7th, and there were huge losses that were recorded because of climate change impacts. And the sectors that get impacted include water, urbanscape, land use, agriculture, sanitation and waste, tourism, built heritage, drainage. So it's not only one sector that is getting impacted, it's the entire cycle that gets impacted. And what is it that we are looking for in a resilient system, a system that is able to withstand climate change? Firstly, it should be reflective. Reflective means that it should be able to accept uncertainty, which is becoming more and more in view of climate change. Our systems should become resourceful. That means people and institutions find ways to come together and contribute in time of need. The system should become robust, which means that the systems are prepared to handle sudden shocks and stresses and can rebound after a impact. Hello. Yeah, so the system should be flexible. That means the systems can change and evolve to adapt in response to the situation. There should be integration between the various sectors. Like, one sector should not be looked at in isolation. There should be redundancy, which means that the system should have spare capacities so that in case of a shock, it can adjust to those immediate needs. And it should be inclusive, which means that the community should be involved in the planning and implementation processes. So now I will be talking about some case examples of community-based adaptation. This is a case study from Burhanpur city in Madhya Pradesh, which is located on the banks of river Tapi. And there are the satpuras along the edge of the river, as you can see over here. So these are, oh, maybe my mouse is not visible. Uh, so, right. So these here are the satpuras, and this is the river Tapi. Sorry, this is the river Tapi here that you see. Now, it has a very unique system called the Kundi Bhandara. It is an underground tunnel system, which was made during the Mughal reign by Akbar, because this was designed by Abdul Rahim Khan Khanan, because Akbar feared that his source of water, which is the Tapi, might be poisoned by enemies from upstream. So he developed an alternative source of water. And this is an underground tunnel which passes from the Satpura foothills right up to the Tapi River. And these that you see on the wall are the calcium deposits that have happened over the years. Sorry. So the system used to have a discharge which has reduced from 1 mld to 0.4 mld. There is degradation of forests happening in the Satpura, and climate interference along with anthropogenic interference, which is causing the reduction in the water flow in this tunnel. So it starts from the mountain area, flows down, starts from the foothills, flows down and meets the river Tapi. This is an example of a Kanat system. Now, if you look at the next example, this is from Rajasthan. What you see here is a pond. It is one of the major ponds in the city. And what we found in Rajasthan, this is actually from Jaisalmer, when we went to Jaisalmer to do a study, we found that Jaisalmer, although it is, a desert region, still in that region, the ancient rulers had the wisdom to ensure that they make a series of interlinked ponds. So the overflow from one pond used to flow into the other pond. So that led to a cycle of water storing bodies. So this is also relevant in today's context, and many of our cities had such similar ponds which were interconnected, but due to pressures of urbanization, these ponds have been lost and these linkages have been lost. What we also see in Rajasthan is that they used to match the quality of water with the use. So for drinking water, you had separate systems, which are wells. What you see in the backdrop here is Amar Talab. So there was a pond which was used for bathing animals, washing animals, and drinking water for animals. There were also certain bowdies which were made like the one that we see here, which were used only for drinking water. There were separate areas that were made for washing of clothes. There were separate areas that were made for other activities which were according to the use that that activity had. So it is very, very important, and it is the principle of integrated water resource management that you should ensure that water use matches water quality. Like, you do not need filtered water to clean your car. You do not need filtered water to wash your clothes. These can be done with lesser quality of water also. What we also find is water harvesting systems. Most of our wells and bowdies are drying out today. Now, what we need to do is a very, very simple adaptation, which means that the rooftops can be linked to the water wells to recharge them. Now, this is Mazha Polima scheme in Kerala, which is being run for quite a few years. What they're trying to do is that even in a place like Kerala, you face a lot of water issues because there are a lot of contaminants in the groundwater. There is also summer water scarcity that they face. So what the government and the community is doing is to initiate measures to recharge these ponds, and it's a very simple method that they follow. They connect the rooftop runoff gutters and divert them directly into the pond after leaving a outflow channel for the first floor. Here you can see the outflow channel. So now coming back to one of the initiatives that we do through our NGO, that is called the Community Resilience Plan, School Climate Action Resilience Plan. So basically, we've interacted with a lot of schools and we've done a lot of training programs. And after that, we have started working towards these school climate action plans with the students. So initially, we go and do training programs with them. Tell them what is climate change, what are water resources, what is waste management. They also play games on these. They do interactive activities on these themes so that they develop a better understanding. And then we get them to develop a school climate action plan based on what are the uncertainties that they see in the climate, what are the problems that they envisage in the future, and based on the hazard risk assessment they develop a strategy on how to make their school more resilient. And these are some of the images from the workshop, and this is the school climate action plan from one of the schools. They decided to focus on waste, solar panel installations. They decided to undertake rainwater harvesting and water saving, plantation of trees, and saving electricity. And they also are in the process of implementing this school climate action plan, under which they undertook a school tree plantation activity and planted lots of trees. Now, this is one of the solutions that I'll share with you. This is not at the community level, but at a catchment level. This is for a river named Mandakini in UP. We saw the condition of the river deteriorating. It is it is a very small river, but it has been reduced to just about Nala. But there are several auspicious ghats along the river, and the river has a lot of religious significance also. So it is important, and it is very, very important because it is the only drinking water source for the people of the city. Yamuna is also located, but it's located quite far from the city. In the city, this is the only source, and this is a hard rock area. So we tried to develop a conservation plan for the river. We see a lot of rivers decaying and dwindling in our urban areas. So we tried to work towards what can be the measures that can be taken to restore the river. We looked at three stretches. One is the catchment stretch, which is this part, wherein the Vindhyas are there and a lot of forest cover is there. Then we have the urban catchment, which is here, wherein there are a lot of developments along the river, and there are developments coming up in the catchment area also. And then it goes into the agricultural stretch and then meets Yamuna. To the extent that over, I think, around 50 kilometers span of this river, the river has been dammed at least 5 or 6 places. So there are 5 or 6 existing check dams, so much so that the river is almost dry when it reaches the confluence, and especially in summers. So we identified the traits of all these stretches individually and then devised methods to restore them. For example, for the catchment stretch, we saw that even after several days of rainfall. Like, there was rainfall and then there was a long span of dry days, but still the catchment area showed that the springs are retaining water. So that means there is a lot of subsurface flow. Now, subsurface flow means that water is flowing underneath the soil. So that is very important, and that is a very, very important element to retain, because this subsurface flow is going to come several days after the rain. So that means it's going to make water available to you after the rain has happened, and that means that during your dry and lean periods also, this water can be available for you. So the measures we took in this catchment stretch was that we need to increase afforestation here so that the subsurface flow can continue. We also need to install silt traps to capture the silt, because a lot of silt, or mud in common language, was coming during the monsoons. So that means a lot of topsoil from the catchment is getting lost. So we decided to develop several silt traps. Then in the urban stretch, we thought that there is a need for pollution abatement and blue-green infrastructure. I'll explain further what blue-green infrastructure means. And then in the agricultural stretch, because the ecological flow, which is the minimum flow that a river should have, so that the ecological aspects linked to the river are maintained, that needs to be ensured. And nutrient reduction, because there is a lot of algal bloom happening there, so the runoff from the of fertilizers carrying nitrogen, phosphorus from the fields is going into the rivers, so that needs to be reduced. So we took a comprehensive water cycle based approach, where we looked at the catchment area, channel management, agriculture, water supply, storm water and wastewater, and proposed several interventions along the entire water cycle. So some of the main interventions were that there is a need for a detailed hydrological study of the catchment. The river presently does not have any afforestation on either side, although it was once a dense forest. So we propose that there is a need for river side and flood side afforestation. The floodplain of the river had not been demarcated and there were encroachments coming. So we propose that there is a need for floodplain demarcation and spring shed delineation. Why? Because we found that this river has a lot of springs entering throughout its course, and these springs are getting lost because of the ghats and the encroachment that are coming up. So when we make interventions like ghats, we should be careful that they are not so impermeable that they reduce the spring flow. The ghats that we make should be more permeable, and we need to restore the ecological flows in the river. So some of the measures we proposed were the formulation of a biodiversity park, catchment management measures, which will try and convert this situation back to a dense forest situation, and room for river. Basically, what we are trying to do today is to restrict the river to its channel, but that is not correct. The river needs area to expand, especially in our country where we see flooding happening during monsoons. We need the river to expand in its floodplain, and we need to conserve its floodplain. So with this concept, the room for river concept, we tried to identify areas where room for river to expand can be permitted. Then we also proposed traditional rainwater harvesting systems like Hudin systems, wherein water can be retained at regular interval along the slope. Now, one or rather two related problems that we saw in the Mandakini catchment were that there was sudden flooding happening, and at the same time the area also faced extreme droughts every 2 to 3 years. So we proposed an early warning system like this, like this that you see towards the end of the slide, wherein the entire catchment can be mapped and instrumentation can be done at all the points near the catchment area, so that the catchment area can be monitored and
Ma'am, your voice is not audible. Misha ma'am. Okay, dear friends, it looks like a technical issue. Kindly bear with us. She would be rejoining soon. Thank you.
yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Sorry, the power suddenly went away, so I'm on my phone mobile. I hope I'm audible.
Yes, you're audible, madam. Please continue.
Is my screen visible?
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
it is visible.
Right. So we proposed for early warning systems also, wherein you can measure different points, and in case a flood is approaching, or in case you have a situation of drought happening in the catchment. So we also proposed interconnected ponds in the catchment area. We also proposed certain trenches which can retain water along the slope. We proposed pockets of Miyawaki forests also, because the urban area was completely bereft of any kind of vegetation, significant vegetation. And for the agriculture stretch, what we proposed was that right now, whatever check dams they had, they were all pakka check dams. They did not allow the monsoon water to flow, and that is why all the check dams were silting up badly. And they were also disrupting the linear flow of the river. And the horizontal flow of the river with its floodplain was also uh, hampered. So what we proposed was that the linear linkage and the horizontal linkage of the floodplain with the river and the linear linkage of the river itself should be ensured. And for this, we propose that you can make openable check dams so that the gates can be opened during the monsoons, and the silt and the water can flow through. There were certain dams in the area also which were facing high level of evaporation losses up to 20-30%. So we propose that the surface of the dams can be covered with solar panels to reduce the evaporation losses. And lastly, this is what we proposed in the urban stretch: blue-green infrastructure. Now, what we mean by blue-green infrastructure is that you create a series of water channels and green areas that can retain water during floods and make water available during lean period or summers. So measures like parks, which can retain your water, blue sponges in the form of lakes, which can retain this water, and whatever river channels that you have and the side streams that you have, they can be provided with thick vegetation even within the channel, so that the flow of water can be slowed down. Sustainable urban drainage systems or SUDs like bioswales and retention ponds can be created. We can create DWAT systems, which all of you might have heard about, which are nature-based methods of treating, uh, the wastewater that comes out from settlements. These systems are completely nature-based, and they're even capable of treating nalas that we have in our cities. Measures towards water harvesting, recycling, and reuse. So these kind of measures, they can be integrated with the urban fabric, so that more retention and less runoff flows out. And we also proposed, if you just a minute, I'll enable the pointer again. So if you can see this river Mandakini flowing towards the northern edge of this diagram, so we proposed another series of green areas, a green buffer with interconnected ponds here, because this is where your Satpura starts. So this is the entire hilly region, and at the foothills we propose that ponds can be proposed and they can be interlinked, and then a green buffer can be proposed here to revive the ecology at the foothills. And along the river also we can provide a dense forest cover. So this is it from my side. Thank you, and if there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thank you so much, Misha ma'am, for the wonderful session. Dear friends, the forum is open for question and answers now. Anyone, any questions, please?
Good afternoon, ma'am. I have a question. Nisha ma'am, as you have worked very closely with the local communities, and one of the previous, our Colonel Sanjay sir, he shared one insight with us that India is lacking in adapting practices, like India is lacking in coping capacity and all these things. So what is your views on the same? What do you think? What are the main reasons for this?
So, frankly speaking, I've worked a lot with the communities at the grassroots levels, mostly in the urban, peri-urban regions, but now we're also going into the rural areas. So what I have found is that the community has a lot of traditional wisdom. The problem is because that traditional wisdom is not translated into development measures. So, we are in a way working in two silos, wherein the traditional wisdom is getting lost and our modern technologies are the ones that we are counting as adaptation, so to say. But if we merge these two, then there is a beautiful integration that can lead to local level capacities being translated into adaptation measures, because a lot of communities take a lot of measures already that we're not even aware of to cope up with the heat stresses, with the cyclone stresses. We only see on TV that they face this kind of stress, but very seldom do they talk about the kind of coping mechanisms that the communities already have, and that help reduce the impact of the disaster. Maybe it could not nullify the impact, but that helps reduce the impact. So yeah, I mean, you look at the kind of bowdies and water harvesting structures that are traditional Rajasthani communities have made. Even if the entire city is dry, these bowlies and these khaddins, they retain water. So there is a lot of need to, they have actually come up with the observation based wisdom over centuries, and it's not that this consequent cycle of floods and drought has struck us today. It has been striking India for several centuries now. And that is how these communities have survived these centuries with the help of these adaptation mechanisms. The only problem is that this wisdom is now being lost because of modernization, and also that the modern systems are now preferred over the traditional systems. Like people would any day go and get a tap connection to their house rather than conserve the well that is there in their house or around their house.
So normally, ma'am, what strategies you look forward or you frame while dealing with this non-scientific communities? Those who have not, what strategies you make while dealing with such non-scientific communities? They do not have a scientific background and they have no knowledge about all these things. How you deal with them? How you make strategies?
So we actually do community consultations. They actually help a lot, and they help in bringing forward this traditional wisdom. And then when you have created a platform, and then over time these kind of traditional wisdoms keep coming across, then the locals also realize the value of these, because to some extent even the people living there are losing out on this. So we try to document them and portray them in a in national and international level platforms to highlight those strategies. And at the same time, what we do is, when we take a scientific approach to them, we try and do capacity building activities with them to sensitize them on how the scientific measures work. So it's a two-way capacity building. We're building the capacity of the global community on the local adaptations, and we're building the capacity of the local community on the global adaptations.
Thank you so much. And one last question to you, ma'am. If the underground water is contaminated, as I belong to Bhopal, so I have heard a lot about Bhopal gas tragedy and the contaminated underground water. So how to deal with this? How the communities can safeguard themselves from such things?
Right. So in Bhopal, you obviously have the blessing of the lakes, definitely. So switching to part or completely to surface water is one of the strategies. But as I said, if you have high contaminants in the groundwater, what that simply means is that your concentration of the contaminant is high, which means that if you dilute that water, the concentration will become low. So how do you dilute the groundwater? Simply by rainwater harvesting. So you get groundwater to recharge by various methods. A simplest way to do this is through abandoned bore wells. We find abandoned bore wells across our cities and villages. So just to connect the rooftop with a pipe to those abandoned bore wells can help significantly recharge the water table.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am. And any other questions from the audience?
Thank you so much, Misha ma'am. That was a wonderful session, and we truly applaud the work done by your NGO in this field. Truly appreciate.
Yeah, so it wasn't just the work of my NGO, it was other organizations also. Thank you.
Okay. So any other questions, dear friends? I would now like to request my colleague, Dr. Minal Sharma, to kindly propose the vote of thanks, please.
So let us collaborate, participate, and manage ourselves, our communities, for a better and healthier future. I would like to extend vote of thanks to Program Chairperson, Shri Taj Hassan, IPS Executive Director, NIGN, Dr. Nitin Rane, Sir, Vice Chancellor, Avantika University, for sparing their valuable time for the inaugural ceremony and sharing their thoughts on climate change. I express my sincere thanks to Program Directors, Professor Santosh Kumar, Head GIDRR Division, Dr. Priya Rao, Madam Dean, External Relation, Avantika University, for being a rock of the support and their efforts for designing and executing the program. I also would like to thank Dr. Preeti Soni, Senior Program Consultant, for their continuous guidance and support. My sincere gratitude to the subject experts, Colonel Sanjay Srivastav sir and Ms. Misha Tandon ma'am, for the insightful and the wonderful session and addressing the queries of the participants. Thank you, Mr. Ali Haider, for briefing out the program to audience and all the audience for the active participation. Thank you so much. The program is closed for the day and we will meet tomorrow on the same time at 11 a.m. Thank you. Thank you, Misha ma'am.
Thank you, everyone. Kindly join us tomorrow at 11 a.m.